is to talk to people who just happen to be my students. And I am going to talk to one such student today, my favorite students, my students who have taken their life to the next level. Uh, it is Aarushi Agrawal. Are
Hi,
you,
sir.
sir?
Sorry.
Are you alive?
Finally, can you hear me? Can you see me? Sorry, this network, I tell you.
I'm
So
telling you.
actually, yeah, I
I'm
mean, we
telling you.
all are connected, but still we are not connected.
You are doing this on purpose. Just because you're an influencer, you're doing pow. That's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, I'm showing all those tantrums. Sorry, I was traveling. No, sir, no,
Okay.
sir. This was all
But
genuine.
no, no, no. But here's the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
question, right? First, for you. So first of all, do you
Yeah.
regret doing it?
What? Do I regret doing a full-time job?
Do you regret doing an MBA? You could have been, an influencer, chilled out, been in Indore, done so many different things.
So, to be honest, this is a very tricky question, I must say. Like, yeah, sometimes I think कि ये वाली journey, like just being an influencer, traveling, collaborating with brands would have been so fancy. Like, सिर्फ chill कर रहे हो, and you have your own brand, you have your own follower base, you can directly pitch whatever you want to do. Right now, even if I want to do a very small thing, I'm stuck in a loop of approvals. मेरे boss से approval लो, फिर boss के boss से approval लो, फिर एक और approval, and it keeps on going on. Yeah, so sometimes I think being an influencer would have been like a great thing. But
Hmm.
then back in my mind when I was planning, like I remember 2 years back, like in 2018, I did my engineering and I was preparing for all this CAT and all. I got into a lot of colleges. But then
Hmm.
Micah was like a perfect balance where I can be an influencer, I can study also this left and right brain and everything. Jazz was suiting my personality. So I was like, chalo, Micah chalte hain. But
No,
then, yeah, the good part is that I got to learn a lot. I got to see, I got to meet a
here's
lot
here's
of
the here's the thing.
individuals.
What's the one thing that you learned in Micah that you're actually kind of taking ahead in your life? And no lying, okay? I'll be able to understand if you're lying or not.
So I think it's basically the numerous perspectives which I got to know, like
Hmm.
new in Micah. Like before Micah, I was like, see, I was from Indore. I was meeting a lot of people who were like doing business, who were establishing their brands, who were co-influencers. But we all
Hmm.
had a certain kind of mindset. We all had a certain kind of thinking. कैसे एक brand establish करनी है, क्या करना है. But whereas coming to Micah, you get to learn it from the ABC कि यार अगर एक brand है कैसे establish होगी या फिर if you are into the corporate world, how are these big giants functioning? Like currently I'm in ITC, I know how it is working, how I'm stuck in the loop of approvals. So yeah, now I know how all of this works. Otherwise,
So,
मतलब मैं influencer बन जाती, but I would have missed out on a lot of things, which now I can take forward and maybe become a bigger influencer or maybe an entrepreneur or something, some
yeah,
chance.
the reason why I'm doing this, is to
Hmm.
obviously we know each other well, and we worked on the tell me about it thing even after you graduated from Micah. But I've
Yes.
always been curious about people who are doing
Mhm.
more than the usual, right? So
Yeah,
you're not
yeah.
just in a corporate job. You remind me of, you're like one of those Avengers on the weekend, like, a superhero on the weekend and Clark Kent sort of thing on from Monday to Friday. That's what reminds me about being an influencer that has helped you do your corporate job.
So I think it is multitasking. Being an influencer, you have to multitask.
Hmm.
Like, see, now, like 5 years down the line, yeah, abhi aap dekhoge, there are influencers who are planning their days, who have their dedicated teams. Back
Hmm.
in my day, when I became an influencer, I was the one who was setting my camera. I was the one who was writing content. I was the one who was planning ki yahan karenge. फिर I was the one who was negotiating with the brands. I was the one who was emailing. So मैं ही कर रही थी सब कुछ. I did not have a team. Like when I was in Indore, I had my team, but it was for Indore, not for Aarushi Agrawal. So this multitasking actually helps me in my corporate job. Like currently also, I'm in a role where I'm dealing with 5-6 teams. I have BCG, I have ITC, I have ITC के 3-4 teams, and people just ask me कि इतना सब कैसे कर रही हो? I'm like, ये अब आदत सी है ऐसी ये जीने की. So it's
So tell
like
me,
that now.
how connected are you to your community? I mean, you've got a bunch of
Hmm.
people who are deeply, intertwined with your life, people you've never met, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. How do you stay connected to your community, and what is it about your community that you really like?
The good part is they are still with me, and they are evolving with what I'm doing. Like, there are people who just leave influencers ki no, now she's doing a different thing, or now
Hmm.
she's into corporate, or now she's not creating the content in that much amount of consistency, frequency nahi hai. But the good part is they're still connected. Like, I know I'm not like gaining a lot of people because I'm not consistent, but I'm happy that the people who are with me are staying with me ki wo to hai.
No, but
Like,
that is probably even more important, because I think that the
yeah.
metric in which you are looking at an influencer has changed. I think if
Yes.
you can engage with people and genuinely
Hmm.
keep people who are loyal to you, I think those
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
different metrics that we're beginning to look at and admire. So one of
Yes.
the things that I wanted to ask you was, you obviously evolved, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
How does your community look at your evolution? Do they communicate that with you? They're like, yaar, ye mat karna chahiye tha, all of that. Does
नहीं तो या कुछ लोग हैं like obviously every time whenever there's a thing it's not मतलब it's always black and white. So there are people who are like कि नहीं ये क्या कर रहे हो, and you could have been a full-time influencer. But there are people who are actually inspired by the journey which I had. Like, I was in Indore, I was doing Indore Wells, then I was doing my engineering. But फिर I gave my MBA, I got selected, I was doing my in MICA, then I got into ITC. So there's a whole career path which I have taken, which generally the people who are not this social take. Like, so they're like, wow, like you'll not find many influencers who have like done great in their corporate life also, or who have studied this much. So there are people who keep on asking me कि आपने कैसे किया, आपने कौन से एग्जाम्स दिए, माइका में कैसे आए, what should I do, मैं अपना ये माई कैट में कैसे करूं, GD कैसे improve करूं, PI कैसे improve करूं. So there are people who actually take career advices from me, and that is something which
that?
is new.
No, but so why does that surprise you? Why does that surprise you? See, in this little answer itself, you've said you're an engineer, you've done MICA, and you're an
Yeah.
influencer, and you're working for ITC. Now, those are big things, man. And what
Yeah.
I feel is that you're doing them with ease because you're multitasking. But can I ask you a couple of other questions? Like, when you're working, what do you think distinguishes you from, say, a normal person? Because you might think, look at people who are just have doing one thing, saying, yeah, yeah, ye karta kya hai, sort of thing. Does that happen to you?
So, sir, the funny part is like when I joined ITC, right? And ITC behaves in a very different way. So I did not tell people that I'm an influencer. I was not telling my boss, I was not telling the people with I was working that I'm an influencer, I have an Instagram page and all. And from Monday to Friday, I used to behave like a total corporate-ish person कि नहीं ये मुझे time पे चाहिए, इसका deadline ये है, and all of those stuff. And then suddenly people like there's this hunch of finding people, right? So there were those people, my colleague, they were finding me on LinkedIn, then they were finding me on Instagram. They're like, oh, you are an influencer, you've got these many followers, tumne to kabhi bataya hi nahi, like, and you work so much, we had no idea tumhe time kab mil raha hai. Then I'm like, this is some kind of balancing which I'm doing, and I don't want you to judge me in a way that I'm an influencer plus I am this person. Like, I don't want you to behave in such a way कि नहीं ये तो social media पे लगी रहती है, बीच बीच में काम करती होगी. No, I do my work properly, plus I
But
do my
no, that's a
social
real
media job properly.
strategy to have. That's a very, very good strategy to have. See, I'm telling you, it is like one of those superhero films that I'm seeing. You know, it's like you were
Shift.
this influence. Pretty cool, yeah, pretty cool. So I have a
Yeah.
couple of other questions. Like, if there was a brand that really speaks to you and you want to work for, which would that brand be? Now
Like
you can
in
even
terms of working or in
MBA type
terms of
of answer
influence.
or non-MBA type of answer. दोनों चलेगा.
So, अगर job wise देखना हुआ होता कि like I want to work for certain brand जिसके अंदर I want to like actually make some change. So I think Zomato is doing really well. Like, I really like how they are doing moment marketing. I really
Smart,
like how
no?
they are mighting,
Yeah.
doing their social media pages. So Zomato is one brand with which like I would really want to represent. In
Hmm.
terms of say अगर मुझे as an influencer कोई brand करना होता तो I would have chosen a brand like Trip to Community, और वो वाली होती है ना एकदम travel brands, like I can just be with them, travel around the world, make content for them. So maybe that kind of a brand, because I have seen jitna exposure and the kind of things you learn while you're traveling is very different in terms of while you're staying in a city. So currently, due to my project plus due to the kind of interest I'm having, I'm traveling a lot. So that is making change in my personality. So I would say ki as an influencer, I would go with all those travel brands. But as a corporate-ish person, I would go with Zomato. Yeah.
What do you think of thrift stores? What do you think of?
So this is a very nice concept to have first, and this is something which is a thing for tomorrow. Like we speak about sustainability, we speak about all of those stuff, but actual life में हम लोग कभी इतना follow नहीं करते. But now that these thrift stores are coming, it is something really a thing which should become very cool. Like earlier, what it used to have, ki sometimes you are like, I really like what she's wearing, but I can't. I'll have to find it, go to this particular page, find it, buy it. Then maybe that occasion is gone. But now it's on a thrift store, that person is selling. I can just take it from that person and wear it. Like, yeah, it's the new cool. So I think it's a new idea and it's a good thing to have. I think someday I'll also start. Abhi to pata nahi. Abhi.
No, but do you think that a concept like this can work in India? In the sense, because it's a new theme and yeah.
There are 2-3 things about it. Like for a thrift store to work, you should actually have a community who should buy from you. Like if suppose there's a person who doesn't have a community, who's like maybe a business person or something, that have only 20-30 people who they know, and then there's a Instagram following of say 200-300 people. Wo thrift store pe daal to dega. That person will put all those clothes. Maybe they might be very fancy and all, but who's going to buy it? Kahan pe hoga ye market? They can maybe put it on WhatsApp groups or Facebook, like what our moms do. But it's not a long-term sustainable thing in the sustainability fashion, but not a long-term thing. On the other hand, the person who's selling those clothes has to be very honest about it and has to actually say ki this is, I have worn it these many times, this is the quality right now. Because in country like India, most of the times whenever we are buying online, though now Amazon and every Flipkart and has become cool, Myntra, but whenever we are buying from Instagram, we still have trust issues. I have seen on Instagram that there are people who say they have sold it, but then when we receive it, the quality is very different. So for a thrift store to work, first you should have a community. Second, you should actually be very true to what you're selling. Like,
that's so interesting. So most people don't think of it as marketing first, but because you're an influencer, because maybe you've studied in MICA, you've got that whole mindset wherein you're not actually developing or creating a product first, but you're looking at marketing. That's a very interesting thing. Tell me one thing, what are the other themes that you are looking out for? Because an influencer is always hooked on to trends and understands what those trends are. So any trend worth looking at, which you think, oh, this is going to become big soon, or aisa koi hai?
So, right now what I'm seeing is there are 2-3 things to which people are very hooked on to. One is this Netflix and all. Second is they are very hooked to platforms like Instagram. Third is they have their dedicated times. Like आजकल कोई भी अपना time waste नहीं करता. Like even if you are, say you are, most of the people who are working, they have this 9 to 12 wala time when they are chilling. कि हाँ बस 3 ही घंटे. So right now, what may be interesting is कि you will have to build a new kind of habit. Or is the new thing. कि right now, जैसे कि Squid Games आया, everybody got hooked onto it. They were like, wow, this red and all is looking cool. Maybe we can develop a game. Right now, there are creators who are actually creating this Squid Game in person and people are actually enjoying it. This was just a show, got famous, got to a certain spike, people got engaged to it, and then again it was gone, right? So right now, those habits are selling, but then there's a whole spike to it. It gets good and then it's gone. So if you want something to actually become a thing, you will have to find a consistent habit. At this particular point of time, people are actually doing it. Just like Discord is something which is getting famous a lot. People who have this certain kind of interest, जो लोग chess से related with, there are people who really like chess. They are being on Discord. There's a particular time when they go and do the streaming and all.
So what I'm hearing from you is any habit forming product is something that we need to look out for, because those are the things that are going to become big. Very interesting.
Yes. Because currently we don't have that much amount of attention span. It comes, it stays for a little bit of time, then it's gone. So we want something, it's like a sustainable habit which we are looking for to actually trend.
teacher has learned from the student. This is amazing. That's exactly one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on board. And what I wanted to find out from you was, if I ask you, so like, what is the one thing that you've learned in the past 3 months to 6 months? What would it be? Because you're doing so many different things, and you're continuously learning new things, right? From across. That's what I noticed when you're telling me. So, what is the thing that you learned in the last 3 months, 6 months, whatever, and if it stands out?
So actually, there are a lot of life learnings which I have learned. I was discussing with my roommate also the other day that we all are working, okay? We are getting certain kind of money. Everybody chases this, okay? Ki
Mm,
we
mm,
do our MBAs or we
mm,
do our
mm,
graduation. We have a bit amount of money.
mm,
Kar liya. You just
mm,
zoom out a little. Is it
mm.
even worth it? Is it even worth it? Like that you are putting your 12 to 15 hours for certain tasks. तुम्हारा जो R cross money ka matrix hai, is it actually getting fulfilled? We all have the Maslow's law of hierarchy and that all
Correct.
we studied and food
Uh,
and all and everything. That
uh,
I get. And I
mm,
agree to the fact that we all have to get educated. We all have to actually work for a certain amount of time. Intellect which these people, the current generation has, they are
mm.
meant for bigger things, which they should realize sooner.
So I'm just trying to kind of nail it down to first principle. So what you're saying actually is your time is more important than your money, is what you're
Yeah,
realizing.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
yes,
how do you spend your time essentially is the learning that you've got. But
yes,
how will you process it? Because you're obviously doing whatever you got, the best of both worlds, I would say.
yeah.
What would you advise somebody who is in your shoes? What would you advise an Arushi who is about to join my car? Now I'll ask you a $1 million question.
So actually, I would say that right now, most of the times, like before, there was an Aarushi who before Micah, there was an Aarushi who used to be very impromptu, who used to not
Hmm,
actually plan things and go for exploring and stuff.
hmm,
Right now, if there was an Aarushi who was to join Micah or who was to be an influencer or who was to start her corporate journey, I would say that start planning for your next 5 years, start planning for your next 10 years. People do ask in interviews ki what do you want to do 5 years down the line. We all crack it in a way ki हाँ interview में जो अच्छा लगा वो बोल देते हैं, but actually start planning because what
hmm.
I have realized is there are only 10% of people who actually write their goals and who actually plan. And those 10% people are the people who become 90% more successful than the people who have not planned. Because there's a whole
Understood.
direction in which you are going. अगर मैंने आज प्लान किया कि 5 साल बाद मुझे क्या करना है, आई एम नॉट श्योर कि मैं पूरा अचीव करूंगी, बट आई एम वेरी श्योर कि 50% आई विल बी एबल टू अचीव. ऑन
Yeah,
द
at
अदर
least
हैंड
you're
इफ
going
देयर इज अ
somewhere.
पर्सन,
Hmm.
yeah, on
At
the
least
other
you're
hand, if there's a person जिसने कुछ प्लान नहीं किया, who doesn't know, like उसको नहीं पता कहाँ जाना है, they'll just
going.
say some answer in the interview and 5 years down the line maybe they'll still be there. So start
Hmm.
planning,
So
start
tell me,
writing your
tell
goals,
me,
what
what
you
is the
really want to
one
do.
thing that you take away? Some theory, some framework, some concept that you learned, Micah, which you thought, I never thought it will be that useful, but actually it is useful.
So sir, I think वो जो हम हर चीज में we used to do those analysis, no, there were two things. एक तो SWOT analysis होता था हर जगह, we used to write की strength क्या है,
Hmm,
weakness क्या है,
hmm,
opportunities क्या है,
hmm.
threat क्या है, and we used to actually apply it in a case study or for a company. But in
Yeah.
general, if you start applying that in your life on every decision which you take, it is
Wow.
very useful. I have done that. Like I have been on crossroads a lot of times. I actually make that square and start writing कि हाँ इसमें ये positive है, ये negative